was joking earlier that apparently I did something to Stuart, and he's only asked me to preach once, and then when I preach again, he's not here. So I have a feeling I did something to Stuart. Good morning. When I was asked to preach by Pastor Alicia, I had been reading a couple of different books. One was on leadership. Another one was by Timothy Keller called Reason for God. And started to try and come up with, this theme kept coming through my head as I was reading these different books. That there's a lot of layers to almost everything that we do. Whether it's business, whether it's relationships, whether it's religion, anything like that, it has multiple layers. And as I was sitting in a meeting, and we were thinking about kind of how we were doing stuff for our business, this idea of cross-branding came to my head, and kind of the pun, unintended, intended part of that whole cross part. All of a sudden I was like, wow, that's pretty smart. I should probably talk about that. So, here we go. So in business, we have what's called cross-branding. And the definition basically means that you have two different companies that bring usually two separate types of products. And they bring them together to try to reach audiences that they may not have reached before. Right? So, everyone, what company is this? Apple, right? Very recognizable. Didn't have to have a name in front of it. You just knew that it was Apple, right? Their brand recognition is very strong. Then we have Nike, right? Now, Apple and Nike, right? They're pretty different, okay? But when you put them together, you have this brand now that they sell fitness apps. They have watches. They have all of these things that they have combined to basically reach a bigger audience and, try to make a little bit more money. All right, so the next one, a little bit different. Oh, we have McDonald's, again, very recognizable. And this one's pretty easy, right? Oreos, okay? And when you put them together, you equal deliciousness. Okay? Greatest thing about a McSherry is that they always serve it upside down and before that, right? They kind of stole that from Dairy Queen, but either way. We have the Oreos, we have the McDonald's. Cross-branding, what's interesting to me on this one is what's bigger, the Oreo or the McDonald's? Yeah, but yet we buy it at McDonald's. Okay? This one maybe not as many people know. Okay, pretty good. And this one? Who said SeaWorld? Yes, very nice. Okay? And when you combine Southwest and SeaWorld, you get a flying chimney. Okay? So again, two different companies cross-branding to try and reach different audiences to garner more profits and that. So as I began to think about this and how it related to the cross and God and Jesus and all of the different layers and brands and images and everything that we hold dear as Christians and how it really took place. So what I would like to suggest to you is that arguably the biggest and most recognizable symbol or brand for Christianity is what? Right? That's pretty, you see a cross, it evokes certain emotions, you recognize it, you see it, and you know that it's part of Christianity. Right? So I would like to suggest that God actually used a version of cross-branding, not in the sense of trying to earn more money or trying to do anything like that, but to reach everyone in order to save us all. I'm going to be reading text. Usually we like to have them up on the screens. What I'd like for you to do is this, if you'll indulge me, is to close your eyes and listen, and I want you to picture in your own head what's going on in these certain scriptures. Okay? So I'll say the scripture, you'll know that'll be your cue to just close your eyes and then be able to picture what I'm reading from. So the first brand that I would like to, again, suggest that God used to be able to reach his ultimate goal is for me, the crown of thorns equals suffering. So Mark 15, 16 through 20. The soldiers took Jesus into the palace and called together the entire brigade. They dressed him up in purple, put a crown of plaited from a thorn bush on his head. Then they began their mockery. "Bravo, King of the Jews!" They banged on his head with a club, spit on him, and knelt down in mock worship. After they had their fun, they took off the purple cape, put on his own clothes back on, and then they marched him out, nailed to the cross. As you pictured that, there was probably an emotional response of picturing somebody suffering. You have the physical suffering of the thorns going into your head, the beatings that took place. Then you have the emotional and physical, the emotional and spiritual one of mocking you, or laughing at you, making fun of you. You know that your friends, your disciples, aren't right next to you to help you, your family members. You have all of that going on. As you're Jesus, you are suffering on a multitude of levels. Mark 15, 33 through 34. At noon, the sky became extremely dark. The darkness lasted 3 hours. At 3 o'clock, Jesus groaned out of the depths, crying loudly, "Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani," which means, my God, why have you abandoned me?" So this, to me, is the ultimate suffering for Jesus, because up to this point, he had not known sin. And he still didn't know sin in the fact that he had sinned. But he knew sin because all of a sudden there was this separation from God. And that, to him, was the ultimate suffering. Why have you abandoned me? From William Barclay's commentary in the book of Mark, here we have the divine paradox. Jesus knew what it was to be a sinner, not because he had sinned, but because he had never known what it was like to be separated from God. But this is why he can understand us so well. It's because there's nothing that we don't go through that he's been through. All the way up to the separation from God. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Why? I don't understand. I've never felt this before. So that's the first brand. Crown of thorns and suffering. Second one we talked about, as far as maybe the most recognizable, is the cross. For me, though, the cross is about love. And that is the brand that I think God is trying to sell us when it comes to the cross. John 19:25. While the soldiers were looking after themselves, Jesus' mother, his aunt, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary Magdalene stood at the front of the cross. So as you're picturing this, you have Jesus on the cross, 2 other on the sides. And you have 4 women that are there, and they're all there for different reasons, right? But a common thread is definitely love. It has to be, right? You have the mother's love. Okay, I have a mom. No matter what I did, I knew if I was hanging on a cross, she'd be there. Right? You have the aunt, which is found out her name as part of my research is I might pronounce this wrong, but it's Salome or Salome. You have Mary, the wife of Clopas, and then you have Salome, and then Mary, the mother of Jesus. So you have these 4 women, and they're all there for, again, different reasons, but the thread is definitely love, right? John 19:26-27. Jesus saw his mother and the disciple he loved standing near him. He said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that moment, the disciple accepted her as his own mother. So as I was researching this, I found out that that disciple was John. And he was talking to his own mother, Mary, about how he wanted to make sure that his mom was taken care of. Because from Barclay says, when Jesus saw his mother, he could not but think of the days ahead. He could not commit her to the care of his brothers, for they did not believe in him yet. John 7:5. And after all, John had a double qualification from the service Jesus entrusted to him. He was Jesus' cousin, being Salome's son, and he was the disciple whom Jesus loved. So for me, I never thought about this. Here you have Jesus on the cross, agonizing pain, been mocked. I mean, it's just this whole thing, the suffering piece has already happened. It's still happening as he's on the cross. And yet his thoughts are for someone else. His thoughts go to his mother to make sure that she's taken care of. So, I mean, it's amazing to me, right? That love piece conquered all of that, even in the midst of everything that he was going through. John 19:30. When he received the drink, Jesus said, "It is finished." And with that, he bowed his head and gave up his spirit. When we compare the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, you have different stories, right, of Jesus' life. Some are more personal, some are more about parables, and so on and so forth. But this specific verse, Matthew, Mark, and Luke tell us that Jesus died with a great shout on his lips. On the other hand, John does not speak about the cry, but does say the words, "It is finished." So "it is finished" is one word in Greek, and I'm hoping I'm saying this right, tetelestai. And by saying it with great shout would suggest he said it as a shout of joy, as he knew victory was won. I never thought of it that way. Okay. It was this shout. It wasn't this agonizing, "It is finished," or this real quiet, "It is finished." No, it was a shout of joy, because he knew that love, God's love, had conquered evil. From Barclay again, the last sentence of this passage makes the point even clearer. John says that Jesus leaned back his head and gave up his spirit. John uses the word which might be used for settling back upon a pillow. Again, close your eyes one more time and imagine Jesus on the cross, being in agonizing pain, thinking about his mother and everything that's going on. And as soon as he shouts with joy, "Tetelestai, it's finished," he leans back his head in just perfect peace, because he knows it's all taken care of. God is taken care of. How that love mixed with that suffering has now started to create this cross-bearing effect of reaching everyone to be able to see this. Third branch, empty tomb, resurrection. For me, I see this as forgiveness. So we have crown of thorns, suffering, cross for love, and we have the empty tomb, resurrection, which is forgiveness. John 20:11-16. But Mary stood outside the tomb weeping. As she wept, she knelt to look into the tomb and saw two angels sitting there, dressed in white, one at the head, the other at the foot, where Jesus' body had been laid. And they said to her, "Woman, why do you weep?" "They took my master," she said, "and I don't know where they put him." After she said this, she turned away and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not recognize him. Jesus spoke to her, "Woman, why do you weep? Who are you looking for?" She, thinking that he was the gardener, said, "Mister, if you took him, tell me where you put him, so I can care for him." And Jesus said, "Mary." Turning to face him, she said in Hebrew, "Rabboni," meaning teacher. It wasn't a coincidence that Mary Magdalene was the first person to see Jesus. Jesus was able to forgive Mary Magdalene for for things that she thought she would never be forgiven for. Right? She was the poster child for the scarlet letter back in the day. Right? And that was a serious offense. Okay? So here she is thinking that there's no one that's ever going to love me again. I'm suffering through all of this stuff, and yet here comes Jesus, and Jesus says, "You're forgiven." Her love for Jesus was unquestioned, and at this point, as we look at the scripture again, it shows how much that he, meaning Jesus, was on her mind from Barclay. Her whole conversation with the person she thought to be the gardener shows her love. "If you are the man who's removed him, tell me where you have laid him." She never mentioned the name of Jesus. She thought everyone must know of whom she was thinking. Her mind was so full of him that there was not anyone else for her in all of the world. Her love was so powerful for Jesus because his forgiveness was so powerful to her. All this would have not taken place if not for the original act of forgiveness. So we have suffering, we have love, we have forgiveness, and I thought it summed it up best by Timothy Keller here from The Reason of God. Forgiveness means bearing the cost instead of making the wrongdoer do it. So you can reach out in love to see your enemy's renewal and change. Why did Jesus have to die and be resurrected in order to forgive us? There was a debt to be paid. God himself paid it. There was a penalty to be borne, and God himself bore it. Forgiveness is always a form of costly suffering. So the whole story, right, for me now, has a completely different meaning. Okay? You took everything that goes from the suffering of the scourging and everything through the resurrection and the joy, and yet there was love and joy and forgiveness and suffering intermixed and cross-branded all throughout that entire story. And if you take even one of those pieces out, in my opinion, the story doesn't exist. It's not successful. So how smart is that? Right? We think it's cool, and we do, let's put Oreos in ice cream. We're amazing. We're going to sell a ton of this. And here God is weaving a multitude of layers. We only talked about 3. And yet he was able to save the entire world. So, anybody would like to guess? We have the result of the 3. So we have crown of thorns, cross, the tomb. Cross-banding result would be what? We get to be with him. That's it. We get to be with him. That's the ultimate thing. He did all of that for the result of he gets to spend more time with us. He's got to like us a little bit. John 20:31 says it better than I ever could. "But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Messiah, the Son of God, and that by believing you may have life